Well, good morning, everybody. For the last couple of days, I've been down here in Phoenix. So I am with the senior managers at Nutrien, and we're just kind of discussing 2026 and the way it's going to play out. And I got a chance to address my colleagues yesterday about the upcoming weather patterns. There's a lot of concern across the country for our customer growers as this winter unfolds and what it might mean for spring. And I was able to give them some reassuring news about the pattern, especially those that are in some pretty deep drought. And I want to share that with you today so you can kind of see what the discussion is and how we're hoping this pattern can shift around so that we can get much closer to some what we would call expected weather patterns going forward. Now, you've been watching an animation here of the first of a sequence of fronts that are coming through the midsection of the country. On the backside, in this section, going up in the Canadian Prairie, then coming to Montana and the high and western plains, very strong winds. And Matt, I talked about it. We kind of saw it in some of the forecast models, but it's going to get extremely windy here. But it's going to be the temperature pattern shifting in this area, and the snow around the Great Lakes that is going to be concerning for the next 7 days, while so much of the west is trapped under just this massive ridge. In fact, I'm heading over to Sacramento tonight to talk with a group of growers in the northern part of the Sacramento Valley here. And, while California right now is drought-free, and they have about 28 million acre-feet of water stored up in their reservoirs, which is about 130% of average, we don't want to spend the rest of the winter trapped under these massive ridges. I'm going to talk about that. We also just addressed some of our folks down here in the Delta and the South, just with the flooding that hit parts of Mississippi, but the ongoing surrounding drought in this area. And last night we did add some more much-needed rain into parts of the South, getting over to the Southeast. And we'll take a look at what some of these new precip stats look like. But as I think this through, the temperature change is going to be quite astonishing over the next 15 days, especially into this corridor right in through here. And we're going to watch multiple Arctic outbreaks come through. We're watching one right now. We're watching a change in temperature right now. Much colder air coming through the Dakotas, out of the Canadian Prairie, and into Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. Temperatures are 20 to 30 degrees cooler than they were. And there's going to be some pretty sizable Arctic blasts coming through this area, like I said, in the next couple of weeks, given the amplitude of this pattern. The other big concerning factor are these surface winds. And I just want you to watch this animation here and just keep an eye on this particular quadrant as we play through the next several days. So going from today into tomorrow, look at this, into the 15th and 16th, look at the strength of the winds coming out of Alberta and Saskatchewan right into the northern and central plains of the United States. Very strong winds in this area. We're expecting gusts 50 to 60 miles an hour. And we play through the 17th and the 18th. Now remember, at this particular point in previous model forecasts, this low you see off the coast, well, it was a part of a broader complex of weather patterns focusing on developing low pressure here in last week's model runs. Remember that? We were saying, hey, we got to watch something coming up. Well, that has been washed out by the sheer size of the ridge running up the west coast of the United States. But in the central U.S., very strong winds. And you can see just multiple rounds of them there. I got to the end of the viewer there. But just to show you, we do have a broad area early this morning of high wind watches. And I'm sure these are going to go over to warnings as the winds come through. The lake effect snowbelt is going to be cranked over the next several days. It's very cold down into parts of southern Alabama, Georgia, and Florida this morning. And the air stagnation issues that are going on in the Pacific Northwest continue, which we talked about on Monday and Matt brought up again yesterday. But I wanted to show you something. Let's just kind of zoom in here. You can see that the wind gusts, according to the high-res NAM model, just through the next 60 hours, are expected to get up in the 50 to 60 mile an hour range. And I imagine with local topographical effects, they're going to get faster than that. Just wanted to kind of briefly mention this particular incident, given how strong the winds have been here so far this winter. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm trying to reserve some excitement around something that we're keeping an eye on, because I never want to hype these things up, but it's kind of cool to watch. So I can show you something kind of neat here. I'm going to go over to Weather Bell, and I want to look at upper level height patterns, so troughs and ridges, and we're going to look down on the North Pole view. So as I mentioned, there's the massive ridge. Now watch this, okay? As we go forward with the 0Z European model, that ridge becomes established. Look at these Arctic blasts that come in through this part of the Great Lakes and the eastern side of the United States. We'll get a closer view of that in a moment. But as they play out there through Friday into Saturday, look, another reinforcing shot coming through here. There's going to be snow with this. But I'm mainly interested in how far to the north this ridge is going to go. So this line right here is the 540 line. And we generally use it, and it doesn't apply everywhere, but we generally use it as a demarcation for if you're north of that line and there's going to be precipitation, The lower atmosphere temperature profile is cold enough for snow. And if you're south of it, it's rain. That's just why that blue line exists. It's just a benchmark. And as they play out there to Saturday and to Sunday and Monday, notice how this line is now going all the way, almost entirely through Alaska. And if you remember, like through much of December and early January, Alaska saw brutally cold temperatures, massive snowfall events. It even got as far south as Juneau. And on Sunday, this ridge is just punching through into the Arctic. By Monday into Tuesday, my eye is just drawn to a couple of things. The amplitude of this pattern, look at that, and this right here. So sitting over the Arctic early next week is a trough of low pressure. And anytime we see these just big bulging ridges that rip up into the Arctic, you're going to push something out from here. You're going to displace it. And if you put the squeeze from Scandinavia as well, we're talking about that 540 line north of Svalbard. That's where this is right now. And as we just play it forward, I'm curious about this guy right here. See this? Now look at how this is going to displace this trough. Where are we? This is Tuesday the 20th, 21st, 22nd. Where is it? By the end of the 21st, right there, coming through the northern parts, through the Canadian archipelago into northern Canada. And what I'm fascinated by is these ridges in the European model linking, okay, kind of bridging across Scandinavia over to the Bering Sea, and where it took that trough that was here straight south. Now, this is a single operational run. We'll look for the ensembles in a minute, but it then dips it through Canada, and right there, that is the fun piece. Here's the broader trough, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on this small trough that goes into the northwest and the potential, okay, for it to get flung right into the southern plains of the United States. It's actually going to meet up with a very small piece of the tropics coming out that's also a trough as well. And the two are going to have a kicker wave on the backside. Remember how we talked a lot about that? These kicker waves are critical. And the kick is going to punt this in this direction. Guess what that is? That's southwest flow. Now, it is not the true southwest jet stream flow, which we can get from powerful El Niños, which come from Hawaii. But we've at least turned the atmosphere around. Unfortunately, it's like 11 days from now. So much can change about this, which is why I wanted to kind of tamper my excitement. But just to see this, look at this ridge just living in the Arctic, displacing 1, 2, 3. Look at this. It's happening all over the planet, kicking these troughs out. And as that one comes across the United States, I think it has the potential to make things interesting. So let's go look at it, okay? I'm going to take you back to my new forecasting tool. I get asked a lot, hey, when are we going to get this? I got to finish it. I don't have all the models in there yet. I'm working hard on this. We'll get them there, but when I do, we'll put it out there, okay? So what are we going to see? Let's just zoom in a little bit more to the U.S. And we're going to see the Canadian Prairie as well. By the way, keep an eye right over here in the East Pacific. I've been reluctant to tell you anything about this because I just didn't believe it in the models, but just watch right here in a minute. Okay, low going out of Ontario into Quebec right now. These were the fronts, which, by the way, let's get this lined up. There we go. Sorry. This was a 0-0 run, so if you want to see how well the model lined up this morning, it's kind of right in through here. So this is what we were expecting. And the rain moving through the southeast, the snow coming through the Great Lakes. All right, there's your next clipper. This is while the massive ridge goes up the west. These little clipper systems, well, this is actually pretty big, but it moves through and brings in some snow from the Dakotas and out of Manitoba and Ontario into the Great Lakes states. And then it rolls through, brings some snow to the northeast, and then another one follows it. That's what we're going to see as we progress through Saturday into Sunday. Okay. Now, that big area of high pressure, wait until I show you what the temperatures are doing here in a few minutes. But what I'm keeping an eye on, watch this, there's a little bit of a weak disturbance that's coming out of Texas. And what I want to tell you is this is linking up, I'm watching right down here, with this. Now, earlier this week, some of the models were producing almost like a tropical type low with a warm core. I'm talking tropical cyclone type low here, and bringing it farther to the north. And what it seems to be doing now is part of the vorticity around that is linking up with a little vortex that's coming out of Texas. And by the time we get out to Wednesday, we're going to be bringing some rain across one of our driest spots, in the country, parts of the southern plains in the south. But that's not the big show, okay? The big show is starting here. That, okay, where are we? We're on the 23rd, okay? And what we're watching here, well, we're 12 a.m. on the 23rd, but what we're watching here is this system that's coming out of Canada. It's starting in the Arctic and coming through Canada. And keep an eye on this. Ready? That, okay, is the broad wave. The kicker swept around the backside, and here's the wave that's getting, excuse me, this is the kicker. Here's the lead wave, and this is like a legit winter storm that has a trajectory like this. And we're looking at precipitation here, the risk of ice here, and snow. Like that's the textbook style winter storm system. But it's out there on like the 23rd, 24th, and we just need to keep an eye on how it progresses through, and it moves through the northeast. And then the kicker wave behind it just establishes cold air, very cold air. And then we wake the west up again. So again, I want to be careful that my excitement over this, just seeing something we've been trying to see in the forecast show up, is not misinterpreted. So let's look at a couple of things. How about we flip this over to just total precipitation first? Now I'm testing this. I'm on a really slow internet here in this hotel in Phoenix, and I'm happy to see my new system loading these things pretty quickly here. But as we play through, we can see, in fact, let's put those values back on there. I'll put the city labels too. We can see in here, that's how things play out for the next, 8 or 9 days. And then that is what we're keeping an eye on. See this system coming through adding, it's not everybody. It doesn't get into the plains as well as we want, but it's something a bit different. Snowfall, let's just flip that over and show you total snowfall out of this. And let's get those frames loaded. Good. I love this. All right, playing this out. There we go. What did I do? Let's try that again real quick. Oh, I clicked apply right in the middle of it. There we go. There's snow. Still working the bugs out of this code. So big time lake effect. Watch coming down the tail end of Lake Michigan. Some what I think could be some really strong shore parallel bands coming off of Ontario and Erie as well. That, by the way, this total snow through Wednesday, January 21. And as we play this forward, yeah, look. I mean, there's something to this pattern that I don't think we can ignore, and we're just gonna have to keep a close eye on it. So I do want to show you something. Did you notice we were trying to see some snow down here along the coastal parts of Georgia, northern South Carolina? And is that also in the European model? The GFS with this colder air? Well, this is now the GFS forecast. We're at Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Look at that. There is a chance to get some snow down here. It's only 120 hours out in the forecast. 2 models are supporting it. So I just need to be aware that you can get a dusting of snow in this particular region. So there you go. And this is one of our driest spots. Let's go from there over to some more statistical approach to understanding if this thing's going to be there by using the ensemble. So there's 51 ensemble members in this. So when you see these lows and highs, it's the average of 51 different model runs. That's all we're doing here. Okay, you're going to see the clippers. There comes the high. Now watch what'll be behind it. Clipper coming through. This is out there on Thursday night and Friday morning. Then another high comes in. Guess what? Around that big ridge, another clipper. So this is very consistent through Sunday. Now what I'm curious about is Monday the 19th, Tuesday the 20th. Look, there's your next one. There's that weak little low that I mentioned. You're going to start to see low pressure develop down in Texas. There it is. But here's the thing. The 23rd, there it is. Into the 24th. That is some legit Lee cyclogenesis, a storm system doing something like this. Now, if you ask me what ideal is, it comes in like this and leaves. But there is at least a bend, a turn, a southwest flow, and the models are predicting low pressure coming through at this time. And that low is consistent across the European ensemble, which is going to give us some more confidence in what it might be predicting out there. So let's just review this. Over the next week, we only have 3 systems rolling through like this, and then a little tropical impulse in the shortwave that comes out here. Like that's kind of the mainstay of our story through next Wednesday. And again, we will get cold enough to get a little bit of the white stuff down here according to the latest model runs. What we're watching is this. This is 7 days out. Chance it's staying under 1/10 of an inch. So very, very dry because the active corridor is here and there. Okay. But what I'm watching for are the ensembles eroding any of this as we add on from day 7 all the way out to day 10. And they are. There's starting to be something. Now, this region, because of the trajectory of that storm, will not see the return of moisture. This is not going to bring moisture, I think, into New Mexico, Texas, a lot of Oklahoma, Kansas. It's going to be east based on the current analysis. But there is at least something shifting around trying to erode that. Unfortunately, going out 300 hours, this still seems to be a bullseye for very, very dry conditions, which we're going to have to monitor carefully going forward in this forecast. But look at all of our forecasts, 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And the Europeans showing this thing. The CPC's picking up on it. We can also see the GFS, which is likely our most aggressive on seeing this. Now, I know I focused on the euro, but I want you to see it's there as well. Now, the West spends most of this time under a ridge, and that's why it's quite dry there. But we even think that toward the end of the month, we could break that down as well. Why this is so critical? I mean, if you just look since the beginning of this new year, to get the moisture into this area and the moisture into this area and then get it to go toward the northeast is critical. And while back in December, these areas were wetter, we've gone over quite dry in this region, despite even a little bit of snow that snuck into this spot recently as well. But the bigger picture is over the last 30 days, to see moisture trying to return to the Ohio Valley, parts of the Missouri Valley, the Arkansas Valley, this is critical. Same thing for down in the southeast. If you go back even farther, you can see just the depths of the drought, specifically in Arkansas. I was talking with a new friend of mine. I work with Spencer about this, and he is, he's running out of answers for growers with this drought. He's like, you got to tell me when is this going to change? And I said, hey, I hate the drought, right now, but I understand that between now and March, we could do a lot to undo this, and we better talk about what could happen as we go forward into that time frame, which I'm going to do in just a few moments. To switch there and talk about temperatures, I wanted to show you the temperature ranks since the start of the new year, and so much of the plains has been very, very warm. Now, the West had its warmest December on record. The Northeast was nowhere close because it was much cooler, but the Central U.S., a very, very mild December and now mild January as well. I went ahead and looked again yesterday at Hays, Kansas. They're almost at 50 GDDs since the start of the new year. Average is 0. It's usually not cold enough to pick up a GDD this time of year. But if we have a look at where the temperatures are going, you're going to watch a lot of cold air finding its way through this corridor. So this is today, getting into tomorrow. See, that's your first push. That's Thursday's high temperatures. Big warm up, but it's going to be replaced. Ready? Friday, Saturday, Arctic air comes back in. Temperatures in single digits up here in parts of Minnesota on Saturday. We then go into Sunday. Well, it tries to surge a little bit of warmth through, but then you see again the rebounding cold, really just hung up in this area around the massive ridge that's going to be throughout the western states. And then this is how things pan out by Tuesday. So I want to show you again, let's go back to my new site. These are every 6 hours what the temperature anomalies look like. And this is amazing here. Watch the heat versus the cold. This is crazy. So look at these shots of Arctic air. This is getting out there to Saturday. Then that's Sunday, Monday. And then that's next, this is when the wave comes out of the Arctic. Look at how cold this is. I mean, we have temperatures, 30 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, almost 50 degrees Fahrenheit colder than average. And then we just see these surges of colder air making it through the pattern. And the question is right here, when is this? This is the 24th. There's your boundary. This is when the wave comes through, the deeper wave on the backside, the kicker, and it's going to follow that temperature gradient. And that's right now where the models are tossing out, this system. As I think it through, though, what about the ensembles? We have to do that. So there's your next 5 days. Okay, day 5 through 10. There you go. Look at the mild west, much, much colder in the eastern half of North America. And day 10 through 15, it tries to do something like this. Now, if you want to completely see this pattern just be torn up, take this and put it down here. And if that was to occur, boy, you just have system after system coming through. And we're questioning if that's going to be there ever in the pattern. So I want to take you through some analogs again. I have been anticipating that these are my 3 closest matches, 2014, 2009, and 2018. These are just snodgrasses. I'm not, I'm sure my colleagues have different ones, but I tend to like these. This is what January looked like, all right? And again, these are not, I know the colors are quite contrasting, but it's just 3 degrees on either side of average. So can you see how we have a flavor of a blend of 14, 09, and 18? We've seen mild air coming in here. But when the cold returns, it comes into that corridor. So that's all I'm doing. I'm just looking at, the pattern of all of this. January precipitation, we were drier in the west, and we were drier into this area overall, but near normal here. Clippers, lots of that type of setup. What about February? Well, in February, the coldest air seemed to live in this region, which we almost saw at the end of the forecast, right? So there's something about these 3 years that just is sticking in my head with respect to the the forecast. And if you take a look at the February analogs for precipitation, it tended to light up the Ohio Valley, and we tended to be a bit more snowy in pockets of the Northwest, drier California, drier Southern Plains, and drier where it has been drier over in the South and East coming up the East Coast here. So you can see why I'm favoring these models. But just to show you, this is the end of January, beginning of February outlook from the European. All right, so what's it doing? It's drier and drier and kind of drier, right? But you'll notice that if I add on more of February and take off January, what did it do? It tries to wake this region up, but it's still drier in through here, which is quite similar to the analogs that I just showed. If we look quickly at the temperatures, let's do kind of a 7-day sliding window. Okay, so this is week 2. We understand that pretty well. All right, we know there's this maybe early February surge of warmth, but you should expect it to be replaced again as we get through February. And yeah, sure enough, farther into the month, we see another kind of changeover of the guard here, bringing in much colder air. So there's something to the cadence of this pattern we should be paying attention to. The MJO is exciting for us right now. I mean, it's popping out into phase 6. It's going to roll through 7 and 8. And then we're now getting even a little bit better guidance that it could be coming through phases 1 and 2. And as a reminder, we talked about this a lot the last 10 days. Phase 6 is Western Ridges. Okay, that's where we are now. Phase 7, even bigger Western Ridges. But what happens? We drop Arctic air right in through here. We're going to be seeing that as we go out there into week 2. And then beyond that, okay, when that pushes east, the Western Ridge still lives. That's MJO phase 8. What we're waiting is to make the turn into phase 1, which reignites the Western Trough, and phase 2, which fully establishes it right there. You're going, what? Tell me this again. Like, well, if the farther away from the U.S. you move this ridge, the better the flow comes over the top, dives into California, and exits around this southeast. Well, it's really a Bermuda high, if you will. And that just sets up the U.S. for a really active pattern. Now, we look out there at the GFS, and do you see how it's trying to do it? It's trying to bring flow in and out as you look out there from January 17th to February 17th, igniting that typical pattern, which we just kind of discussed going forward. But again, it's speculative. I'm putting a lot of hope in a MJO transition, which for the last, 20 or 30 days has not been the reliable forecasting metric. But we will watch it. It is a useful metric to keep an eye on here. Okay, the last thing I want to finish up with is just this. If you look at our current ocean temperatures, that extent of the blue representing the cold water that's been upwelling there for months, it's beginning to fade. And even if you look here in the last 7 days, just have a look at this. We've seen a pretty good surge of warmer water getting back toward the surface. And what this is, let's refresh this and then blow it up. And this is where I'll finish. Matt talked a lot about this yesterday. This is the South America side. This is the Indonesia side. And that's going down in the ocean. And there's the ocean surface along the equator. You can see as clear as I can that through December into January, the warm water is sloshing back and the trade winds are allowing it. And we're going to replace this cool water, which we call La Niña, with warmer water. And just to reinforce his narrative yesterday, we are going to be seeing the beginning of our El Nino event, the last of which was in 2023, which is not honestly a strong analog to this year, but it's been a while since we've seen anything like this. So changes are coming. And that was kind of the message I delivered in Phoenix yesterday. I just sit tight. I know it's been a rough winter for some of us, but we do have something shifting that will probably get us away from persistence over the next 40 to 60 days. And that's just ahead of spring plant for a lot of folks. Okay, that's all I got for you today. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Actually, I'll finish up the week. Matt is doing quite a bit of travel for work, and so I'm just going to cover the next few days here. So I'll talk to you tomorrow morning from near Sacramento. Have a good one. Thanks.